All right, I think we can start. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, how long have you been involved in organizing and learning about Varnasrama, Dharma, and in trying to implement it in the movement?
Me personally or the Hungarian Yatra?
You can say both.
Okay. So I joined ISKCON when I was 16. That was in 94. And I was living in a small town to the south border of Hungary called Pécs. And I was staying there for 12 years as a brahmachari who was doing book distribution, and as a manager, as a vice president, developing all the different activities of the yatra of that town. And then I got married and moved here to Krishna Valley in 2005. And since then, I'm involved in social development. And when we speak about Varnashram, then it's a social development program, I would say. And the Hungarian Yatra is trying to deal with Varnashram since Shivaram Maharaj is here. So we established Krishna Valley in 93, and the reason was to make a habitat for devotees where they can raise their children in a Krishna conscious environment, so that they would be able to be the second generation, or we would say the third generation, who were born in Krishna consciousness within a community within Hungary. So right from 93, the Varnashram, or establishing Srila Prabhupada's missions, other 50%, namely having a Varnashram social structure within Hungary, was a goal. So since then, I would say that we are trying to develop it. And how successful we are with it, well, time will tell.
Mm-hmm. I have read the book, the Varnashram Companion. It's a very nice book, and I'm reading it now a second time actually. In that book, I don't know. I think there are multiple writers, because sometimes it is from the perspective of Shiva Maharaj, and sometimes I hear that or Shiva Maharaj says in this lecture. So I think there are multiple authors of this book.
Well, there is a Varnashram development committee in Hungary, and Srila Shivaram Maharaj is part of that group. The book was written by him, and the Varnashram development team was reviewing the book, and we went back and forth, and we tried to dive deep into the topic. So that's why maybe in some areas the language suggests that Shivaram Swami said this in a class.
Okay. It is in the book. It said it is not really meant yet for the public.
Yes.
I was thinking that Varnashram Dharma is like a really important part of public preaching. How is it that you would decide to keep it away from the public yet?
Well, it is. If it is for the public, then you would need to show an example where it works. Can we?
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't think we can. Well, the Hungarian Yatra cannot, and I haven't seen any projects in the world that can show the results of a properly established Varnashram community. Or, well, Varnashram is not specific to rural areas, it's specific to a society. So I haven't seen that. So first we would need to establish it among ourselves. So we understand the advantages, we understand the hardships of establishing it, and all of those things. And then eventually, when we can prove that it works, and in fact it does not only works, but it's better than anything else, then yes, we can open it up.
Thank you. Now, how, on a practical term, how did you manage to establish Varnashram Dharma in your community? Like, what are the, let's say, pillars of establishing? For example, I can see that ashrams in general in ISKCON are more clear. They are like more clear, lined out. Okay, the brahmachari is supposed to do this, and there's this area for the brahmacharis where they can reside, and then grihastas they have certain areas. I think Vanaprasthas is practically not present in our time, and sannyas is also like, I have read also the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 7th canto and 11th canto, and from the, like for example, sannyas, there are 4 stages of sannyas, as you probably know, and only in the first stage is one allowed to have a sort of residence. But I see that many sannyasis in our movement, they have permanent residence on many places. So that's now like a really broad question. Maybe we can start with, how did you implement the different angas of one ashram here?
So you were speaking about Varnashram in past tense, that it's already established. It's not. It's not. It's still in progress, and it's not an easy thing. So first, we need to understand the principles in, I would say, in theory, and then we try to put those in practice in some, I would say, like a test area. And then, based on our understanding of the principles and the philosophy or theology behind it, and trying to put that in practice, we will see what are those things that need to be adjusted. Like in the beginning of the Varnashram compendium, Srila Shivaram Swami is speaking about that Varnashram in the present age will look different than in Yudhishthira Maharaj's age. And Varnashram probably will look different in the present age in Hungary, in China, or in Canada. So it's not that, hey, we figured out how Varnashram works and then we just copy-paste it everywhere. And for Varnashram, you need a society, or I would say a community, that is together, and it has a certain amount of number of people. And it could be a city or it could be a rural community, but there should be a community, otherwise, you won't be able to call it a society, or would be able to establish the different, as you said, angas or aspects of Varnashram. The first thing what me personally understood over the years of trying to establish some parts of Varnashram is that we have to found it on basic human qualities. And as we see it in the 7th canto, when Narada Muni is speaking about Varnashram and explains it in detail, then there are those 21 plus 9 qualities that are needed for human beings. And then if we look at the 11th canto, Krishna is speaking a lot to Uddhava about the different qualities that should be there. And at the same time, what would be important for us is, do we have those qualities that qualify us to be, I would say, eligible to be in a Varnashram community or society. Just if we look at if we look at the 11th canto, Sattva Guna is primary. And then based on Sattva Guna, that means purity, balanced life, duty bound. So it's easy to advance when you're in Sattva Guna. Then from Sattva Guna comes that you follow your duties. So you follow your Dharma. There won't be so much shaking in following Dharma if you are situated in Sattva Guna. But then following Dharma also means that you follow Varnashram Dharma. And then based on Varnashram, because you're using your nature. So we have a psychophysical nature that we were born with because of our karma. So using that in our everyday activity, that will help us to be satisfied. And with satisfaction, you will be able to have more time for spiritual life, because you will not want another house, another car, a bigger boat, a bigger this, that, whatever. You will be satisfied. And I think that satisfaction is primary to be able to free up more time for your spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada was always saying that if we establish Varnashram communities, then we will have more time for spiritual life. How do we see that? Where do we see that if devotees are working on the land, then they will have more time? Or if devotees are pujaris, then they will have more time. So many times what we see is that devotees are working day and night, serving day and night, and they are lucky to have some time to read some. But Srila Prabhupada said that if we have a Varnashram community, then we will have time for spiritual practices. So where that time will come from? So these are some of the crucial questions that I think would be really, really important to address. But the first thing is that you won't have more time if you are not in Sattva Guna. If you are not living in the mode of goodness, you will not be able, or we will not be able to follow our duties if we are not in the mode of goodness. So the mode of goodness is primary, it's foundational. It doesn't matter whether someone is working on the field, working on the land, or someone is a Shudra or a Brahmana. They should be in Sattva Guna. The activity that satisfies the individual, that could be in the mode of ignorance, passion, or mixed, or in Sattva Guna. But the primary being of the individual is that they are clean, that they are satisfied, they live a balanced life. So all of this, so Sattva Guna is primary. And if we understand this part, then we see that those 21 qualities plus the 9 activities of spiritual life, those establish the individual so much, so firmly, that anything can be built on that. And again, if we are not satisfied, then we will never have time for spiritual life.
I mean, this raises a question because you mentioned that primary is the mode of goodness for any varna. But I've read that Srila Prabhupada mentions this on several occasions, that a brahmana is primarily in goodness, kshatriya is primarily in passion, and vaishyas and shudras are primarily in the mode of ignorance. So how does this statement harmonize?
If you look at Kolavecha Sridhar, who was making pots and selling pots, he was making a Shudra work.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not mean that he was ignorant.
Shridhara?
Kolavecha Sridhar, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can read about that. So it's like, was he clean? Yes, he was. Was he living a balanced life? Yes, he was. The activity that he was doing, it was a what's that? What's the English word? So it was a handmade, like a Shudra's work. Mm-hmm. So the work itself was not a Brahmana or a Sattva Gun kind of work, but the person who was in Sattva Gun, but because of his psychophysical nature, his work was in a different guna, I would say. But that does not mean that the person wasn't in Sattva Guna. Okay. So it's like when you see someone here making cloth, then that's a Shudra's work. Does that mean that the person is in the mode of ignorance? I mean, they wake up early in the morning, they take bath, they keep their house clean, they go and worship the deity, going for Mangala Arati, worshipping the deity, seeing the deity, go for Mangala Arati, chanting 16 rounds. All of these things are there. Would we say that these are not in Sattva Gun?
No, of course.
But the activity that the person feels satisfied by and happy with and maintains his family and body with is a work of a Shudra. Mm-hmm. But the person, I've seen so many who are, and that's why you see that when we see Vaishnava and Brahmana, so a Vaishnava there is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's discussion about this. So a Vaishnava is higher than a Brahmana. But what does that really mean? So for us, it's like we are living in Sattva Gun, and we worship the deity. We do all the transcendental activities, all of those things. Meanwhile, we do our everyday service or job based on our psychophysical nature. Mm-hmm. And that might be different from it.
How do you determine, or let's say, how do you help a person understand what is his psychophysical nature and what is his work? Like, for example, many people who have been working outside, having gone a certain educational path, that education is not facilitated within the Hare Krishna community because it's not part of our needs. Like, for example, let's say computer works, even though there's some, like, for example, I'm doing. But so my question is, how does the committee is like determine in the individual case, okay, this work might be suited for you, and how do you help that person develop the necessary qualities for this occupation?
Let's start with the qualities, and then we will talk about how to determine one's Varna. So qualities is primary and it's necessary for all the Varnas, for everyone, actually. That's why Narada Muni speaks about those as qualities of human beings. So we all need those. To what degree that's different? Like I always tell the story that when I was a brahmachari, after the 12th year, I was completely convinced that I'm patient. And then I got married. And I figured out that my patience has no depth. And then when I got married and I thought that, oh, now I'm patient, then my first and then my second child was born. So there is a depth of each and every quality. So everyone should own these qualities. The depth of the quality will be different for each and every individual based on their varna. For some, cleanliness is crucial. It's like they cannot live without it. For some, cleanliness means that I wake up in the morning, I take a bath, I clean the floor where I was, well, not on the floor because I'm not sleeping on the floor, but the room I clean because that's where I was during the night. And then I go and I chant my rounds, but that's it. For a brahmana, it's much more detailed. There's more depth to it. So we need all these qualities. The depth will be different. And then determining one's varna, it's not an easy thing to do, or we could say it's very easy to do. And when we see a person in action, when there are disturbances in those activities, then you can see what the individual retreats to. So what's the primary nature of that individual when there is distress? As the saying goes, a man's qualities can be seen when the person is in distress, the real qualities. So in this way, when someone comes to Krishna Valley, okay, let's go back one more step. So Krishna Valley with its 130 devotees, and in the neighboring village there are 240 devotees, so it's almost 400 altogether. Still, the amount of devotees, it's not enough to engage everyone according to their own nature. So it is important to understand one's nature and engage them in services according to that. Otherwise, burnout could be there quite easily and soon. And many times we say that a Vaishnava can do anything. But we see it in so many communities that devotees are getting burned out. And it's not because they are not Vaishnavas and they cannot do everything. It's because they do something for many, many, many years that is not according to their nature. And if they do that, then they will be fried. And that's why we would need to understand what the individual's nature is, and let's try them in different services. And let's see what are those services that they can feel comfortable the most. And that's one thing. The other thing is able to perform at an acceptable level, at least an acceptable level. So there are results, and that others also think that is something that adds to the community. So there are different tests that one can do to see what are those qualities, which depth is necessary for a certain varna. And we are working on a couple of tests that one can self-evaluate. But what I see is that there could be several different ways to determine one's Varna. One is testing, the other is trying to have a group of devotees who know the individual, who were serving with the person, or the parents or friends, authorities, and then they can be together and they can discuss and then come to a conclusion. And the individual, him or herself, they can also say, well, I think I'm in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see is that many times they are quite accurate.
I see. Coming to a question I really would like to ask, and I think you're the right person. You mentioned also specifically that this community is meant to raise children into Krishna consciousness, and I think this is something that the ISKCON movement is very much lacking, to have a suitable place where grihastas can come and serve with the community and in return be facilitated with their needs. Because in most communities I have been, the arrangement is that either you work outside and you earn your own money, you have your own income, and you may even have your own house and renting, and then you can go to the temple, mostly during festivals and weekends. But there's no possibility of full engagement because most places I've been, the conception is sort of the temple is a place for renunciates and grihastas, they're supposed to live outside. But I'm sure that Srila Prabhupada said the ISKCON being a society includes all the ashrams. So what would be the requirement for like a couple to say that come here and serve here, live here, and be facilitated? I see. I've asked Yadukumar Prabhu about the many houses here, if they are owned by devotees, and he said no, they're not owned by devotees; they're owned by the community, and the devotees are being facilitated. So, what would be the condition to have such facilities being given?
Well, anyone who would like to move to Krishna Valley, they can come to test it, to try it out, and then well, that's usually what happens. So devotees come, they stay for a festival, they stay for a week, and then they decide that okay, let's try it out, and then it usually takes. It takes 7 years until one is fully accepted as a member of the Hungarian Yatra. And it's a really interesting process, because then during those 7 years, we get to know the other person, and the other person gets to know ISKCON Hungary. So the Hungarian Yatra is a structured Yatra. It's hierarchical, and a lot of devotees really love Krishna Valley, but a few can really stay for a long time. Because as you said, that no one owns their house here. Because what's happening is that Krishna Valley builds the house and gives it for service, or in return for the services that the devotee is doing. And once the devotee is unable to do any service because of health reasons or age, then they can still live in the house, just like my mom. My mom moved here in 2004, and she was a pujari for, I don't know, 18 years or something like that. But she's 67, 60 something now. And she cannot do full-time pujari service anymore. So she's doing services here and there, however she can. And there is a social department in Krishna Valley. And the social department is taking care of the elderly, the sick devotees, or those who are not healthy, and moms who just gave birth. And so they see what are the services that the individual can do, or they try to help them health-wise, and like for elderly and for sick devotees, the social department gives devotees who can go and clean their homes. If they have a diet, then they cook for those devotees, or they take them to the doctor, to the hospital for tests, this, that, whatever. They even do massage for the elderly. So it's like that. But there's no ownership here.
Mm-hmm.
So no one owns anything. And a good portion of the grihastas would like to own their own house, their own car, this and that. In Krishna Valley, it's not like that. In Krishna Valley, everything is ISKCON's. And the devotees are receiving their possibility to stay in their house or in a house. And there are, I don't know how many cars, 12, 14 cars in Krishna Valley that the devotees can use, can take that. So I don't know the exact statistics, but I would say that around 70, maybe even 80% of the devotees who ever lived in Krishna Valley, they are not living in Krishna Valley now. So if you would like to live peacefully, without ownership, focusing only on Krishna, raising your children in a Krishna conscious environment, and do service 7 hours a day, and be spiritually immersed in Krishna consciousness, then your place is Krishna Valley.
Mm-hmm. I see. Thank you for your answer. I'm a little bit surprised about the 7-hour rule, because I have read in Prabhupada's letters that he was demanding or suggesting 5 to 6 hours a day. Because I've been working now for the past 1.5 years. I had a 40-hour job, and but there are 2 days off for recreational purposes, and I find that 7 hours a day with our schedule, like the lunch break, is taking away a little bit of that, working straight. I think that can be physically very exhausting, and that might contribute also to a little bit of the exhaustion or the burnouts, as you have mentioned. So is this something you would consider okay, now we have such a big project and therefore we must have, or is it something that is like set in stone that no, this will not change, we will keep on this?
Very good question. So at the moment in Hungary, the work week is 40 hours. Now with this 7 hour a day, I wouldn't say we are there. We are almost there for 40. And to understand it a bit more, it's like none of the Matajis do any service until their youngest child gets to the age of 2.5. The Matajis do 3.5 hour service a day up to the age of, I believe, 12, until the youngest child gets to the age of 12. And I don't know what's the next phase, but they serve less than 7 hours until the child is grown up. The youngest child is grown up. And if there are 3 children in the family, then the Mataji does not serve until the youngest child gets to the age of 18. So that's there. And yes, it might be something to change later on. When we see devotees in Srila Prabhupada's time, how much they were serving, I haven't seen any devotees serving 4 or 5 hours a day, or 5-6 hours a day. What we usually hear is that they were working 10-12 hours. Because when someone is a pioneer, then it's necessary to establish something and to see that it is established. And devotees are ready to work more for that. But we cannot always live in a pioneer or emergency stage. So for that, we need to have a proper amount of service time, proper amount of spiritual life time, proper amount of family or friendship time. So we need this, and we need proper amount of rest. That's really crucial, that one should have enough rest. So that also means sattva guna, being balanced. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So now I have a question, if you are the right person for it. Gurukul. Is it like the government does the government accept the form of education that has been offered here for official, like what you would like, for example, if you're born here, you don't really get to decide where you go, what you want to do, but if someone child would grow up and later decide to have a ordinary education and go for a job, would that be possible for them with the education that is offered here? And would the government accept this as a...
So Krishna Valley has a governmental accredited kindergarten, elementary school, and high school. So everything is, I would say, governmental controlled. And because we are a religious institution, ISKCON Hungary is a religious institution, then we have flexibility in how we teach and to 30% what we teach. So everyone who finishes our Gurukul, that has 2 parts, the elementary school and the high school part, that means that at the end they will, so that's 12th grade. So at the end of the 12th grade, there is the compulsory governmental exam. And children are going through that, and then after that, based on the results, they can go to college or university. And also, ISKCON Hungary has its own college that is a governmental accredited college, and it it gives worldwide accepted diploma in Vaishnava theology and in yoga. And in a couple of years, let's see, maybe from next year, we will have our own PhD school too. That means that we will be able to give PhD diplomas to devotees in Vaishnava theology. At the moment, we have BA, and then we have masters, and then we will have that too, PhD also. So anyone who's born here in Krishna Valley or in the Hungarian Yatra, if they would like to go from kindergarten to highest education, they can do it with governmental accredited or in governmental accredited ISKCON-based institutions. So everything is accepted, everything is bona fide.
That's nice. That's nice.
And that's the only place in ISKCON that I know of that can do that from kindergarten to PhD.
Mm-hmm. I suspect that learning the Hungarian language is mandatory for living here, or is it?
Well, education is Hungarian. In our college, we just started English education in this January, 2025 January, or February, because that's when the semester starts. We just started that, and it will be developing, so we will be able to teach Vaishnava theology and yoga also in English. So, yeah, but Hungarian language is so easy. All children learn it by the age of 3, so it shouldn't be that hard.
I heard it's one of the most difficult languages in the world.
I know, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, because I think this way is wonderful, but this is like to learn such a complicated language might be a very big obstacle.
There have been so many children who came here with their families from other countries. Children pick it up very quickly. Very quickly. So usually within 6 months, they are up to the level of being able to learn in Hungarian and read in Hungarian to the necessary academic level. So,
of course, the parents would have to.
It's a different thing. So, parents is a different thing.
Yes. Okay.
But you can see there are devotees here who were coming from Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, Israel, from other places. They learned it, and they speak really well.
You offer like courses for learning here, or
if it's necessary, yes, there are language teachers who can help with that. But what I have seen is that when you start using it, then everything just picks up so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Pronunciation is a different thing.
Yeah. As long as you can communicate. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thinking if there's anything else. Would you like to add anything else?
Well, everyone is welcome. I think it's really worth trying it out. And even if not for life, just come for a year or 2. Especially before bigger life-changing decisions, like where should I go and study? Or I would like to establish a family, or anything like that, then just come here for 6 months, come here for a year or 2, and just merge into spiritual life and service within Krishna Valley, it will help a lot, and it will be a real foundation to build your whole life on.
Joy. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Could you again elaborate on the safety network that you mentioned?
So for ISKCON Hungary, taking responsibility is really important. It's really crucial. So after 7 years, when we got to know the individual, and the individual got to know ISKCON Hungary, with all the rules and regulations and hierarchy and everything else, and they think that they can live as full-time devotees in ISKCON Hungary, then they become, as we call it, missionaries. Not just brahmacharis, but grihasthas also. And then there is a nice ceremony and taking a missionary vow in front of Radha Shyam. And as part of that, there is a signing of the contract in between ISKCON Hungary and the individual. And in that contract, in exchange for the devotee's lifetime service that they would like to do, then ISKCON takes responsibility for the person for life. Meaning that we will cover the housing, prasadam, clothing, healthcare, health insurance, education, services, and as we were speaking about the social structure and the social department in this interview also. So all of these things are covered, and I really believe that responsibility and taking responsibility for the individuals, for the devotees, that is necessary so that the devotees would feel safe for life. So it's not that devotees are, if they become sick or old and they cannot be productive, I would say, anymore, then they would be out on the street and try to start a life at 60. So it's not like that. Here in Krishna Valley we have devotees who are above 80, and not many, but a few who are above 80. There are a couple who are above 60. I mean, a couple of devotees, and a lot that are above 50. So we need to take care of each other.
Sure. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.